Hello once again from the Prim Reaper. So, I have a large backlog of topics I've been wanting to discuss, but holy smokers, have we ever been getting a lot of nuggets of wisdom coming from a certain Twitter account by the name of UN Women. I thought it might be fun to take a break from the serious topics and do a good old-fashioned teardown of some social media cringe. While I have a main course in mind that many of you might already be familiar with, I thought I might start out with a few appetizers to get us in the right headspace first. Let's start off with a bit of a lowball. No country in the world has achieved gender equality. Need we say more? World leaders, civil society, business owners, allies, friends, family, we got work to do. Okay, I have talked about the problem with the feminist conception of equality before, so I'll be brief. In this case, what does equality mean here? Does it mean access to the same opportunities as men? The right to earn the same degrees, do the same jobs, earn the same wage? If so, good news, everybody! You might not be aware of it, but many places in the world have indeed achieved gender equality. If not, what do you mean? Having literally the exact same number of women and men in all careers, especially the high-paying, high-powered ones? Women being paid for housework so that all the hours they spend at their second job can be properly rewarded? Having all fields in all areas of study become comprised of at least 50% women? And let's be honest, you'll be perfectly fine if the number begins to skew towards women's advantage, won't you? And if you do mean some of these latter things, what are you prepared to sacrifice to ensure that those things happen? Are certain women to give up their hopes and dreams to fill your quota of women going into those high-stress, high-power jobs instead of something they might prefer to do more? I won't belabor the point here, but I will say that I think it's curious that this page really seems to be quite focused on the female CEO form of equality, and less on the women in third world countries being treated like subhumans kind of equality. You'd think that one of those things might have a little more urgency, but I guess that's just like my opinion, man. Let's move on to the next tweet and lower the bar even further. Respect women. That's it. That's the tweet. Profound. Okay, we can take this to mean one of two things. If we take it to mean respect, as in holding someone in high esteem, then saying that we should hold women in esteem simply for being women when we do not extend the same courtesy to men is not equality. And let's be perfectly honest here. We absolutely do not respect men merely for being men. If you would like to dispute that claim, I invite you to ask any unemployed man how much respect he has received in the last few months or so, simply because of his man cred. On the other hand, if we take the word respect in this context to mean that you should treat women with a base level of human decency, then at best you're basically saying nothing at all. After all, most of the people likely to see this tweet will obviously agree that half of the human population deserves basic human treatment. Those who disagree will not only be less likely to be active on Twitter or to follow an account called UN Women, but would certainly not be convinced by a mere tweet even to begin with, let alone by such an empty statement. You're not going to overcome centuries of history and culture that might not align with Western ideals of tolerance and equality with the equivalent of a finger wag. But hey, given that the UN has such bastions of gender equality as Pakistan and China sitting on their Human Rights Council, maybe they think that if they just shame people or wish really hard, equality will magically happen. Or, writing tweets in the same style as a 15-year-old trying to be edgy. I don't know if you know this, guys, but writing things one word per line or needlessly repeating the same sentence over and over doesn't make your point any stronger. Honestly, though, is the person who writes the tweets for this page a paid staff member or something? I thought this agency would at least want to maintain the illusion of being a professional organization. Like, am I off base here? Is this just an account named UN Women but is secretly just one random agitated woman studies undergrad in her bedroom or something? This is an embarrassingly puerile level of discourse. Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time on the small fry. Let's get to the burger. Can you imagine a world where gender equality is real? We did, and we think it's a pretty good blueprint for rebuilding in 2021. Dude, this is just so embarrassing, I can't even take it. According to the webpage they linked, this is actually a decently old image, created in March of last year. So if other people have already covered this one, just call me a slowpoke. However, they linked to it just a few days ago on their Twitter account, which brought it to everyone's attention again. So I figured the easiest way to get through all of this thoroughly would just be to follow along their little walkthrough on the webpage I've linked below. Let's get right into all the different segments. Number 1. Unstereotype Avenue. You know, that thing that's totally a real word and stuff. Anyway, if you ask a little girl walking along Unstereotype Avenue what she wants to be when she grows up, she could tell you, I can be anything. A scientist, an engineer, a Supreme Court judge, an Olympic champion, an artist, or astronaut. Not even the sky's the limit when it comes to dreaming big. The word stereotype has lost its meaning in this country. People root for the girl who wants to be a professional football player, not question her capabilities. Teachers encourage all of their students to choose STEM fields instead of assuming that girls wouldn't be interested in them. In Equiterra, diversity is celebrated, not feared, and a culture of acceptance dominates the hearts and minds. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I didn't really see any challenging of stereotypes in that description. I don't know if UN Women is perpetually trapped in the 1950s or something, but here in the current year, women can and already do all of those things. And I'm pretty sure that not only do people not have a problem with this, but it is widely celebrated, even to the point of still having incentives such as diversity quotas and scholarships to ensure that women are indeed going into these fields. And I always find it funny how these guys always glom onto the STEM thing. I mean, really, it's only the TEM in which women tend to be less interested anyway. This is a pattern that can be found across cultures regardless of the level of achieved gender equality. These figures persist despite universities practically begging women on their hands and knees while throwing money at them to complete these courses. Other than going so far as to force them, I don't know what more you'd like to do. Also, not to be rude or anything, but I somehow doubt we'll be seeing people in wheelchairs playing soccer alongside able-bodied people running and kicking the ball as normal anytime soon. That is, not without a laugh track and being on Monty Python or something. This is not because we are stereotyping people in wheelchairs, you morons. It's because putting people with an obvious physical handicap in a situation where they would then be expected to play alongside people without such handicaps is a dick move. Even assuming you don't tell everyone else in an extremely patronizing manner to play down their abilities for the sake of inclusion, you're probably going to have 1. A very bitter group of people annoyed that they can't play their game to the full extent, and 2, a very embarrassed person with disabilities feeling like they are holding everyone else back and that everyone else is condescending to them. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Number 2, Violence-Free Alley. In Violence-Free Alley, 2 women are walking along discussing their days at work. They were respectful, and I was fully heard in that meeting today, says one. Me too, says the other. In Equiterra, it is women's shared experiences of empowerment and equality that often bring them together, rather than shared experiences of sexual harassment and abuse. Oh my god, do these guys have a warped view of what normal female interactions look like? I'm not saying that some women aren't unfortunately brought together by experiences of abuse, but it's far from being the defining highlight of most women's socializing, and pretending like it is scaremongering. Also, there's just something so cringy and forced about the phrasing, I felt respected and heard in that meeting. Human beings don't talk like that, guys. This reads like a robot trying to create an approximation of what they think humans sound like. I don't care what kind of utopia you want to try to envision here. If 2 people walking out of a meeting are saying anything other than, that was a total waste of time, and yep, could have easily been covered in a 5-paragraph email, then you are not creating an accurate pattern of human relations. They don't face persistent sexual harassment at work or when walking on the streets. They aren't taught to walk with their keys between their fingers in case they are attacked or worry about being judged for the clothes they wear. There is no such thing as femicide. Women are valued and respected here. Domestic violence is a rare occurrence because there are strong laws against it and services to support victims. Since gender equality is the norm, the power dynamics between intimate partners are not oppressive or toxic. Good God Almighty, is there a lot to go over in those 2 paragraphs. More scaremongering for one. They act like all women are at all times facing unending harassment from men. Or, as I have covered before, that they are the only ones that have anything to fear by being out on the streets at night. And being judged for the clothes they wear? Seriously? I could wear the same outfit every day of the week and the average man at my job wouldn't even give me a sideways glance about it. I'd even go as far as to wager that most, if not all of them, wouldn't even notice. The only judgment I've ever received about my clothes was in high school, and it wasn't coming from the guys. To be fair, teenage me really had it coming either way. Then we come to the next line, and it's like, where to even begin? Implying women are not valued and respected in the real world. Implying femicide exists in the real world because women are not, on the whole, valued and respected. Implying femicide typically has anything to do with the level of value or respect the murderer has for women in general. Disregarding the fact that in a world where men supposedly hold all the value and respect, they are still murdered. Not just murdered, but murdered at a much higher rate than women in very nearly every single country in the world. And after that, I love how they address domestic violence, first of all, as if there aren't already strong laws against it, and also implies that it is a gendered problem. This was my main area of study in my master's degree, folks. Much of the available research demonstrates that while women do tend to suffer more serious physical harm, domestic violence as a general act is perpetrated in roughly equal proportions by both sexes, sometimes even skewing towards greater female perpetration. Also, toxic dynamics between intimate partners happens for a wide variety of reasons, even in countries with higher gender equality, so this point really just comes across as naive and oversimplified. By the way, there are services to support victims, as long as you're a woman. Part of my work involves being very familiar with the resources in my area. When you look for women's shelters, you have at least 9 dedicated options for them, not including the general co-ed shelters. Men? They have 1 dedicated option. Not exactly the picture of equality, is it? Number 3. Equal Pay Street. On Equal Pay Street, and everywhere else in Equiterra, there's no question that women and men are being paid equally for work of equal value. There are no systemic barriers that hold women back, and since they are encouraged to pursue careers across all sectors, there is no women's work or men's work. Women stay in the pipeline and become leaders across industries. So, I'm pretty sure it's been illegal to discriminate in hiring practices based on one's sex for a long time now, right? Well, at least as far as women are concerned. Having a place that doesn't really like to hire men seems to be A-okay to most folks. So, I'm not really sure what systemic barriers these guys are talking about. And I'm sure the women of Equiterra also tend to work the same number of hours, including overtime, take less time off, and line up cheerfully to do the disgusting and dangerous work often done by men, right? After all, the big-ass sign in the middle does say equal work right there, right next to the grade A cringe that is a literal smashed glass ceiling and someone saying, "Lol, what a joke," to the idea of a pay gap. Gotta say, I really praise the illustrators' subtlety and nuance in their work. With care work and household responsibilities shared equally, women don't have to worry about their family choices interfering with the way they are perceived at work and limiting their ability to progress. There's unified parental leave across all sectors. Fathers take parental leave as mothers do and enjoy caring for their children. Employers allow flexible arrangements for those who have care responsibilities. Also, in Equiterra, minimum wages are set to provide decent income, and there is a quality and affordable care available for those who need it. As a result, men and women can equally contribute towards a thriving economy, and children are happy and healthy. Finally, something at least partially unobjectionable. Unfortunately, I know that in many places paternity leave is not as easy a thing to obtain as maternity leave. I am sure that this is a barrier for many fathers who might prefer to stay at home with their children while their wife returns to progress their career. I am all about the freedom of choice in this regard. Both parents should be free to care for their newborn, return to work, find alternate childcare options, whatever works for them. I just wish it wasn't couched in this emotional labor kind of language. If you want to share household responsibilities with your partner, you should communicate your expectations to them, rather than expecting them to have the same priorities as you. This isn't even a male and female thing, and actually it's humorously kind of sexist for them to assume it is. I have known several couples where the woman is the lazier one in terms of cleaning, and the man does the bulk of the household responsibilities. I am not saying that this is any better or worse than the alternative. All I'm saying is that how people choose to live is their business, and if they want to live with another individual, it's their responsibility to ensure that they establish a satisfying division of labor with them, whether that be communicating their expectations or adjusting their expectations to their partner's level. This is not a gendered issue. It's just part and parcel of living with another human. Now, I did want to take a very brief personal moment here and share my own experiences with the general subjects this section of town is addressing. I always hate how there is this subtle undertone of disdain for motherhood and family, as though it is something that is getting in the way of a woman's career advancement. I always envision that the people who write things like this must not have children of their own, because that couldn't possibly be further from my experience. If anything, I would say I didn't realize the full extent to which my daughter would bring joy into my life. Either way, because of that, I can safely say that my ability to progress in my career, quite frankly, takes a back seat to being able to care for and support my family. I'm not oppressed by this. It is a choice I am making happily. I plan to take my work very seriously, and I take pride in wanting to become a men's counselor that is not bogged down in ideological nonsense, but the order of priority I'm placing on things in my life means that I will probably not make as much as the average man, and this is not an indication of systemic discrimination. Frankly, expecting to make the same as a man working more hours than me with fewer days off feels entitled and wrong. Similarly, I would expect a woman who doesn't choose to have a family and instead continues to work while I am off on maternity leave or whatever else should be promoted ahead of me. It's really only sensible. On the other hand, I don't see my position in life as being somehow lesser than the aforementioned career woman. I'm happy with the path I've chosen, and frankly, I think it's very patronizing to have people like this talk as though I'm in a disadvantaged position because of it. Anyway, I'm going to have to cut this video off here and work on the second half of this article separately. Unfortunately, there are 6 more districts to go, and I would be here forever if I tried to cover it all in one. But worry not, I'll try to make sure I have the second one out quickly so you don't have to wait for the rest of the cringy delight. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.